Hey guys, Bladesofgod here from Hammer Bros Gaming, coming at you with the newest installment in our Gears Tactics, Immortal Legion Achievement Guide. If you're unfamiliar, the Immortal Legion achievement basically tasks us with completing the entire game on the hardest difficulty without losing a single unit. And unlike lower difficulties, there is no down but not out status. So if your health bar drops to 0, you are dead and you need to either restart checkpoint, restart mission, or restart act. This video specifically is going to be covering Act 2, Chapter 5, which is called Contraband. In this mission, we are introduced to a couple of things. We are introduced to the canisters that Ukon uses to perform his healing, and we're also introduced to a new enemy type, the Theron Guard. Theron Guards are more intelligent. They actually coordinate the enemies and can call out certain units of yours for the enemies to focus on. And if you get called out, I can't remember what the exact ability is called, but if they target your specific enemy, you actually take more damage when you get hit. So that's not great. And even worse news is that the Theron Guards have torque bows, and these torque bows do a lot of damage. They can shoot over cover. They're very accurate. All in all, it is not fun. But we're going to show you how to deal with them here. Mission is fairly straightforward. It's just a rescue mission. So we've done a couple of these before. We got 15 turns to get 2 units out of a couple of torture pods. And we have to run this mission starting with just 2 units. So that's about it for the intro. I really hope that you find this video helpful. If you do find the video helpful, if you're finding the video series helpful, please consider subscribing to our channel, Hammer Bros Gaming. Give the video a like. We've got merch up, so check out the merch store. Got some nice shirts, mouse pads, all sorts of fun stuff. But yeah, that's about it. We'd love to have you as part of Hammer Nation. But other than that, I'm going to stop gabbing and let's jump right into the video. Alright, so let's jump right in. Looking at Gabe's skill tree first. We have high-powered shot, distracting fire, revved up, chainsaw rush, weak point, chainsaw attack mastery, and power and command. Looking at his lancer and the loadout that we're using for that, we have the Overwatch stock. We have for the passive skill of patrol. We have the expert mag, precision scope, and the power barrel for plus 30 damage. His pistol has been upgraded to the 2nd tier pistol. His grenades are frags. He has the trooper helmet equipped. For his chest or his upper piece, I currently had him running the Delta kit for autoloader, but we are actually going to swap that out for the commando vest for the potential skill. And then his legs, we have the hunter braces for the glory skill and a plus 7% evasion. The reason we like this is because glory gives you a chance to cool down some of your skills whenever you execute an enemy. So we definitely like that, and the 7% evasion never hurts anyone. So, moving on, we're going to look at the second character that we're going to bring into this mission with us, since we can only bring 2 missions, and that's going to be Marcella Spectre Trin. Looking at her skill tree, we have the following skills equipped. We have the Demolition Expert, Frag Grenade Mastery, Extended Cloak, Proximity Mine level 2, Free Cloak, Stalker, Sprint level 1, and Cloak. Looking at how her Nasher is set up, we're going to have the Impact Grip for Disrupt, we're going to have the Stable Handle, Precision Sights, and the Power Barrel. Her Snub has been upgraded to the 2nd tier Snub. Her Frag Grenade, she's running the more powerful Frag Grenade. She's running the Trooper Helmet. For her upper armor, she's running the UIR Regulator, and for her lower armor, she's running Ranger Treads. Well, she was running Ranger Treads, but I actually realized that I had UIR holsters available, so that increases her, or reduces her grenades by 1 turn, so they refresh faster, so she's going to run that, because we want her to be maxed out on all grenade abilities. And you can see here, I'm just going to go through and recruit a few of these, recruit some of the recruits, I guess, to see if they had any new gear, and since the little red triangle doesn't pop up, that means they didn't bring anything new to the party. And we are just going to go ahead and toss our 2 units that we're using, Marcella and Gabe, in. Unfortunately, the optional objective is do not use a frag grenade, and that's not going to happen. So we're going to end up using a frag grenade, not a problem though. It stinks that we won't get the additional the additional crates, but that is okay. We will make do without them. So this is a rescue mission. Unfortunately, we do end up having to deal with our first Theron Guards, and Theron Guards can be a real pain. they don't show up until after we rescue our first prisoner, and since the torture pod on the left gives us the advantage of high ground, we are going to be making our way to the left first. We're also going to have our first epic loot crates or gear crates in this mission, so we're going to want to make sure we grab those. We got one right close to where we start in, so you're going to want to send one of your units over to grab that. Thankfully, there's no enemies right at the very start of this mission to kind of hassle you, so you're able to approach this without needing to worry about enemies taking pot shots at you. Again, the reason that I'm running Gabe and Marcella is because Marcella is set up to use a lot of grenades, which we definitely are going to want because we are outnumbered, and Gabe has some abilities like Empower and his Lancer chainsaw that will help to not only get Marcella a few more turns or an additional turn when I need it, but the saw is going to be really good for taking enemies off the map in one shot. You'll see that at the end with the Theron Guard. So we're going to advance, we're going to go up this ladder here, and you can see that the torture pod is kind of directly on the other side of this cluster of buildings. This is good and bad. It's good because it gives me a couple of ways to go about getting towards the torture pod. It's bad because that means that the drones that are up there, I believe there's 4 or 5 drones, can use multiple paths to get to me, and there's no real way to predict which way they're going to go. I'm trying to spread my units to both sides a little bit. The reason I'm doing this is to try to keep the enemies advancing, keep the enemies from grouping up and having too much concentrated firepower in one area. That kind of sounds counterintuitive because so far in this guide I've been preaching, you know, you want to keep the enemies coming at you, you want that predictable AI. The problem with that is that on this mission, there's not a lot of cover right here. The angles aren't very good because of the way that the geometry is designed in the level. So you want to actually split these enemies up if you can and try to take them out one at a time instead of grouping them together and trying to take them out with grenades. It doesn't work out so great for me. I end up having them start out splitting up and then they all sort of come back together, but whatever, the game's going to do what it's going to do, and we kind of have to just adapt as we go. So we had that one drone overwatching towards us, and there wasn't much we can do. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm going to move Gabe around to the front side, I guess you could say, the more open side of this map, and try to get some angles on the enemies as they advance on Marcella. And by moving Marcella over here, what I'm hoping is going to happen is that, again, the enemies are going to kind of split up. They're going to show their hand as far as where they're advancing, and that's kind of what's happening right now. Is we have one drone that came far to the right and overwatched us, which is fine, and then we have another one that sat on the left. So you can see here I'm trying to figure out, well, I could saw this guy, but that's going to leave me with one turn or one move to get back to cover. I didn't like the odds of that. I don't have any frag grenades, so instead we're going to use high-powered shot, and it misses, which not great. So instead we use regular shot, and we get a critical hit, which is good, but that wipes out all of my action points. So we're going to move Marcella back over here. You could do this a couple of different ways, and you're going to see that I changed strategies here, I believe, on the next turn. Traditionally, I like to keep my allies close together so they can help each other out if they get overwatched or pinned down. But it's not working. The kill timer is on because this is a rescue mission. So I end up splitting up my units and trying to send them different ways. But it's just like every time I try to do something, you know, it doesn't really work out for me. So I get a partial hit there, not great, but could have been a lot worse. We've got enemies overwatching us right now. Gabe he's overwatched, so I can't move him. So I'm going to move Marcella, or I'm sorry. I'm trying to see what I can do with Gabe right here, and I can't do anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to move Marcella around to the back side here and try to take advantage of the fact that all of the units seem to be focusing on Gabe. I'm going to go invisible. I know that my grenade is going to be ready on the next turn, so I'm going to plant Marcella on the corner of this building, hoping that Gabe is not going to get killed. Now right here, this was foolish on my part. I knew that Gabe had to move in order to go into Overwatch, and I knew he was going to end up getting shot. So my plan, like I said, which was to have Marcella grenade these guys while they had Gabe in Overwatch, didn't really work out because I got scared, so I had Gabe fall back thinking I'd be safe here. and unfortunately, instead of chasing me, the enemy cut off where I was going. By all rights, they should have shot at me right there and just put Gabe out of his misery, but instead they just overwatched. Thankfully, I have extended cloak, so Marcella's still good to move around as she sees fit. And you can see I'm going to take out I'm going to take out one enemy and then grenade another enemy, and it will it'll enable Gabe to come in and clean up the rest of these guys. So we're going to get nice and close on this injured drone, use our Nasher to take him off the map. Then we're going to use her Marcella's increased frag damage to take this drone off the map. There we go, and that opens up the drone who has his back to us, and Gabe's going to use his saw and take him off the map. And in addition, since I have Chainsaw Rush active, I'm going to get one additional action point, which will allow me to open up the first torture pod and rescue our first gear. Now, unfortunately, I'm actually running a little slow on this mission. Normally, I like to have my first pod opened by turn 10. That leaves me 5 turns to deal with the reinforcements and 5 turns to get the second pod open. But not a huge deal, you know, I'm 1 turn slow. That just means I got to make up my ground. And I'm going to show you a slightly more aggressive playstyle on the second torture pod that I don't traditionally use on Insane because it's high risk, high reward. But in this case, you know, it works out for me. So you'll see that in just a minute here. We can see the introduction of the Theron Guard. Evasive Hunter with explosive ammunition. Pick up its weapon if you can. And we're going to actually do that later on in the mission too. So we're going to ignore these reinforcements for now. By and large, they're not going to be all that much of a pain while we're getting our other gear out of the torture pod. Again, the first step is you need to get both gears out of torture pods. That's what the timer's for. It's not that you have to complete the mission in, you know, the remaining 8 turns. It's that you need to get the other gear out of the torture pod. Now, a lot of times I will actually, on this mission or other missions like this, I like to run a sniper. I almost always like to have a sniper in my crew, just because in these kinds of situations where I have the high ground and there's no easy way to advance because there's choke points like these stairs, you can sit your sniper right at the top, kind of like right on this corner, and really just take pot shots at your enemies and keep yourself fairly safe. But, you know, we don't have a sniper. We didn't rescue a sniper. We rescued a Vanguard. So we're going to use what we have here. I'm trying to figure out the best way, you can see on the screen right now, trying to figure out the best way to position Gabe so he doesn't actually take damage but can still be an effective unit. And we're going to move our new Vanguard down here just to show us where some of these enemies are hanging out. I can't believe that shot actually hit with only 40%, but it did, so we did a little bit of damage there. And now we see that Gabe is not going to be able to do very much. We don't want to just pop him out into the open where he can't take cover. So we're going to park him behind full cover, and I'm actually going to send Maricela up front here. Now, the reason, again, I don't usually like splitting my units up, but I know that I've got the reinforcements that came in with the Theron Guard that are kind of back towards where we started the mission. And I have the units that are guarding the second torture pod that are going to be advancing on that stairwell that I had the Vanguard go down. So I'm trying to kind of take out 2 birds with one or I guess not 2 birds with 1 stone, but 2 birds at the same time. Or in this case, if the drones are the birds, I'm taking out a lot of birds at the same time. So the first step here, I've got my Vanguard who is being overwatched. So we're going to frag the drone using Gabe's grenade. That's going to free up our Vanguard to toss a grenade. And you can see we've got 4 drones that are right around that that torture pod. And unfortunately, the grenade wasn't enough to put them down. However, what we're going to do now is we're going to use our retro. That puts one of the drones into down but not out status. And then we're going to target the other injured drone who got hurt by the grenade. And I'm switching over to the snub for a little bit more accuracy at distance. It was still only a 58% chance of hitting, but that was enough. So now we're going to switch over and check out what we can do with Marcella. We know that we had a couple of the drone units moving up, and we're going to use our favorite combo of throwing a proximity mine first, and then we're going to throw a frag grenade directly on top of it. The idea here is that you're going to get the explosion from the frag grenade, and then hopefully get the secondary explosion from the proximity mine. You can see it worked on one enemy, but not both. And what I'm going to do here is I see it's only a 32% chance, and my snub isn't going to be enough to put him down into a down but not out status. So instead, I'm just going to overwatch, and I'm not overwatching to max distance. I'm only overwatching to the very top of those steps, because I know the AI is going to want to advance on me. The drone on that set of stairs who's injured is the closest unit, so he's going to be the only one who can make it up there. So when he gets into that overwatch cone, he's going to get hit just like that. Wasn't enough to destroy him, but it put him in another down but not out status. So now I have 3 drones in the DBNO status. Thankfully, we got a partial hit there on the full cover, so that wasn't too bad. And now I'm going to show you the more kind of aggressive play style that I use. And again, not a big fan of this because I really have to kind of rush in and mix it up. I've got 3 enemy units who are active, but we're going to clean the board on this turn. So first up, I'm going to send Marcella down to take out this drone with an execution. That's going to give Gabe and my Vanguard an additional action point each. Next, you're going to use Gabe, and I believe we use Gabe next. And we're going to execute the closer of the 2 downed drones. Now, to be sure that I don't trigger that overwatch, I move Gabe into cover, then move him further up like this to execute him safely. So I got all the way around that overwatch cone without triggering it. Now this is going to give Marcella an additional action point and my Vanguard an additional action point. And now I'm going to use Gabe again to execute the next down drone. So I just executed 3 drones, netting my Vanguard 3 additional action points. She has 6. Gabe has 1, and Marcella should have 4. So now I have 3 enemies to deal with. Unfortunately, I don't have any grenades or proximity mines, but you know what? That's okay, because at this distance, the Gnasher is fairly effective. So we're going to set up here, take some shots, put some enemies on blast, so to speak, and really kind of start going to work. I'm going to ghost with Marcella here, and I end up moving up a little bit because I have that free cloak skill. Actually, I don't. I'm sorry. I was going to move up, but I realized I didn't have my grenade. So I just reloaded and got ready in case I wasn't able to take these guys all out. So you can see here we got 6 total actions. First move is going to be to use the retro charge to take one of these enemies off the board. I have 2 enemies, 1 enemy at full health, 1 enemy at half health. So we're going to use shoot, just the basic shot, to try to take out our damaged enemy. Unfortunately, I missed the first one, but I get a critical hit on the second. Now I have another full health enemy over here. I'm out of ammo, and I got 2 action left, so instead of reloading, I'm just going to switch to my snub. That gives me another down. Now I'm able to execute using the Vanguard one of these drones. That's going to give Marcella and Gabe each an additional action point again, which means I can now open these pods. Gabe has 2 action points available. I'm going to open the pod, and you can see I managed to make up the missing turn I was on because I actually have 5 turns remaining. So we made really good time, really good progress on that turn, and that's one of the great things about learning these game mechanics, is that you can stack these executions to continue to replenish your action points. It's not a overly complicated system. Every execution gets you an additional action point for the rest of your team, but chaining them together where you can get the maximum usage out of these additional action points is key on insane difficulty. So I'm going to move Gabe up. I really want to get that additional case, or that crate that's right there, and I'm going to move Marcella back up to the top of this staircase. The reason I'm doing that is because you always want to keep the high ground. In the Theron Guard with his torque bow, he can cover a lot of ground. Like, he can hit enemies that are very far away. Thankfully, I had that big domed structure between me and him, so he wasn't able to get a shot at me. And you can see that we get Reavers dropping in additional units. So we have 2 snipers and we have 4 rifle drones who are dropping in addition to the enemies that were already on the field. So we still have quite a few units to get through before we're free and clear. I'm going to move Marcella up here and try to use her to take out this Theron Guard before he's able to cause me any problems, because of that torque bow, it very rarely misses, and if it hits hard. I've got 2 action points. I've got a fairly good chance. I've got elevation bonus, so you can see I got a critical hit there, and I'm going to shoot again. That puts the Theron Guard in down but not out status, which is good enough for me. It's not a death, but it takes him out of commission, so he can't do any shooting until something revives him. We're going to run our Vanguard up here, grab this case, and then park her behind cover on this kind of little half corner here. And now I'm going to try to get Gabe up these stairs as much as I can. You can see I'm trying to get him behind that full cover. It's not working, So I'm going to try to use that advantage of, if you take your moves 1 action points distance at a time, you can sometimes gain a little bit of slide distance that can actually get your units further than if you use all 3 action points at once to move. And you could just see that was a great example with Gabe of that, getting him up the stairs to that full cover. Wouldn't have been able to make it there just moving him, using all 3 action points at once. So another reason we want to get these guys all up to the top of these stairs is because we want the AI to try to rush all together. We're going to use our grenades and try to maximize the damage we can do. I'm going to actually use my grenade from Marcella right here to... I was considering just blowing up the Theron Guard and being done with it, but then I realized that that's not the most practical use. I am trying my best to take additional units out of play so I lessen the chance of taking damage myself. So we used the grenade, we took out one of the rifle drones and damaged another one pretty heavily. And right now I'm kind of focusing on seeing what I can do for, additional damage. I decide that I'd like to take the Theron Guard off the map completely so he can't be revived. That's done. So we're down 2 enemies, and the Theron Guard, who's by far the biggest threat on this map, is also gone for good. I'm not going to rush down and try to grab the torque bow. I will grab it eventually, but it's not worth the risk with all those enemies down there right now. And in fact, I'm going to set up my heavy on this corner and overwatch the ladder right next to Marcella. I anticipated that the drones were actually going to make it up the ladder this turn, but they don't. And then with Gabe, I'm just taking pot shots from afar. I did manage to do some damage there, and then I missed this one. But still, it's not a bad thing. Did some damage. He's still in full cover, so all in all, it's a pretty decent exchange, and I'll take that. And you can see, because of that additional damage, I was able to DBNO that rifle drone using Marcella's snub. So now we have the snipers who are coming into play. This one's going to pin Marcella, which, again, this is a great example of why I love and I hate the enemy snipers. When they go into pin like this, there is the only downside is that you can't move your enemy. Move your unit. The enemy drone, the enemy sniper, isn't going to do anything. He's not going to fire. He will sit there with that unit pinned until either you hurt him, disrupt the pin, or if it's the scout, you go invisible and he loses his pin. So here we go. We've got one drone that's overwatching right now, so I decided to use a grenade from the heavy that we rescued to disrupt that. Then we're going to move up our rescued Vanguard and kind of get her in position to start taking some shots at enemies that are down below us as well. Again, there's no real rush right now because there's no additional enemies that are coming until we clean these all up. Once we get all of these enemies cleaned up, then you do have a small timer where if you don't make it to the extraction zone, you're going to end up having more enemies drop in. But we're not going to have to worry about that, and I'll show you that as we get closer to the end of the video. So I used the Empower skill from Gabe to give up my Vanguard an additional shot or additional action point, and I used that action point to shoot at the enemy that we blew up with the Heavy's grenade. The grenade did enough damage that I was able to down him with the shot from the Vanguard, so he's not off the map, so to speak, but he's out of commission. We're down to a couple action points with Gabe, 3 with Marcella. I decided to reload since it's the only thing I can do that's not going to trigger a shot from the sniper. And we're going to continue to move Gabe up. I can't really get any decent shots from here, so we're going to advance him a little bit. Then we're going to end our turn. So now we've got the drone who's over there, the rifle drone, who's kind of doing that stupid stutter step where they don't do anything practical, I guess, from the enemy standpoint. They just sort of move back and forth. But again, not too bad. Nothing took a shot at us. We didn't take any damage this turn. Unfortunately, now both the snipers are pinning Marcella, but that's a minor issue because, again, as long as when they pin the enemy or pin your ally, I'm sorry, the enemy can't move and won't move until you do something to disrupt that pin. So I'm going to take advantage of this, and essentially with those 2 snipers having pinned Marcella, I now only have one enemy to deal with, and then it's that rifle drone, and we're going to take him out using our other units. I was going to use the saw, but you can see I don't have enough distance to get there, so instead we're going to have the Vanguard come down. She's got 4 action points since Gabe executed one of the enemies, and that's going to give me 2 shots with the newly acquired torque bow to take out this remaining drone. Now, I was going to use the low-powered shot, but I decided to switch to high-powered so I'd be sure he'd die, and unfortunately with a 90% hit chance, I missed. So we'll try again, and mathematically this one should hit, which it does. So now we just got the 2 sniper drones who are left, and I was going to ghost and break the pin, but instead of doing that, I decided to advance my heavy. There's no reason not to move your units up at this point. Nothing's going to attack you. There's 2 snipers. They're both pinning Marcella. So I'm going to move Gabe up and get ready to take both of these guys out on 1 turn, and then hopefully be able to get all of my units to the extraction point, which you can see is literally right there. So we're going to run up. I'm going to use the chainsaw. I'm going to execute one of the snipers. Boom. He's done. We're down to 1 enemy, and Gabe has 1 action point left. So we're going to go ahead and frag this last sniper. It's not going to be quite enough to kill him, but it will break the pin that he had on Marcella. It'll interrupt him, and now I can move Marcella up and use the rest of my units to clean up this 1 drone. I'm going to be able to clean it up using just Marcella, and I use the frag because, well, you know, frags don't miss. As long as they're in that radius of the blast zone, they don't miss. So no reason to take a shot and potentially not put him out of commission. But we got the notification that battlefield's clear, no enemies present, or no enemies detected, so now there's nothing left to do but run all of our units into the extraction zone, into the target zone, and wrap this mission up. If we hadn't gotten to the extraction zone in this turn that we're on right now, and we'd gone into another enemy turn, Reavers would have dropped off more reinforcements, but as you can see, we have completed the mission. All units are accounted for. Gabe got a little banged up, but he's still on his feet, so we are still good to go. So we're going to, I'm going to pop open the cases that we got in this mission, show you guys what I got, and that is going to be the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you find this helpful, and until next time, take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, please like and subscribe. You can also check us out on Twitch at Hammer Bros Gaming. I am Bladesofgod, and until next time, have a great day everyone.